Traditional and sustainable best practices and their alignment with local specific conservation of natural resources. Across the globe, communities have lived in harmony with nature for generations. From the lush forests of the Amazon to the dry savannas of Africa, people have adapted, preserved, and passed down traditions that respect the land and conserve natural resources. But in today's world of rapid climate change and environmental degradation, we need to ask, are we listening to the wisdom of the past, or are we risking losing it forever? In this video of traditional sustainable best practices and how they align with local specific conservation of natural resources, we'll explore age-old methods of living sustainably with nature and challenge ourselves to think about how these traditions can inform modern conservation efforts. But here's the big question. Can modern conservation thrive without drawing from traditional knowledge? Can we truly sustain our natural resources if we don't understand how communities that have lived with them for centuries managed to protect them? In many rural and indigenous communities, traditional practices are just cultural rituals. They're survival strategies. These practices, often developed over centuries, are fine-tuned to specific environments, taking into account local climates, seasons, and ecosystems. They ensure that resources of the land are conserved so the people who depend on them can thrive. For example, have you ever wondered why some communities protect certain patches of forests, calling them sacred groves? These sacred spaces are more than just cultural markers. They're key biodiversity hotspots left untouched to ensure wildlife and plant species can regenerate. So here's the question. Can we afford to ignore such practices when biodiversity is declining worldwide at an unprecedented rate? Let's take a closer look at some examples of these location-specific conservation practices. In the highlands of Peru, for instance, indigenous farmers use terracing to farm steep mountainsides. Not only does this technique prevent soil erosion, but it also helps to retain water. In the arid regions of Africa, desert communities use traditional methods to harvest rainwater and conserve every drop of moisture in the soil. Now, think about this. If these communities have already mastered ways to sustainably farm in challenging environments, why do we often overlook these methods in favor of modern, more invasive technologies? Modern agriculture and resource management often prioritizes efficiency and productivity. Large-scale industrial farming, the clearing of forests, and widespread fishing are all meant to increase yield and feed growing populations. But there's a trade-off: soil degradation, deforestation, loss of biodiversity, and water scarcity. Traditional practices, on the other hand, are built on sustainability, not just for today, but for future generations. For example, rotational farming allows soil to recover, while controlled burning in forests promote the growth of new plants, encouraging biodiversity. But here is the dilemma. In a world that demands more food, more energy, more resources, can we afford to slow down and adapt these traditional methods? Or can we afford not to? It's not just on land where traditional practices play a crucial role. Coastal communities have long known the importance of mangrove and coral reefs, which act as natural barriers against storms and flooding. This while providing critical habitats for fish. Today, Modern conservationists are rediscovering the value of these ecosystems, investing in mangrove restoration and reef conservation. But as we replant mangrove or create artificial reefs, we have to ask, are we working with local communities who've lived alongside these ecosystems for generations? Are we incorporating their knowledge into these projects? Or are we missing an opportunity to build lasting solutions? One of the most powerful strategies we have today is aligning traditional practices with modern conservation efforts. In Tanzania, the Sustainable Rangelands Initiative is working with local pastoralist communities to manage grazing lands. This is through traditional systems, while using modern technology to monitor rangelands' health. In Mexico, indigenous farmers use milpa, a traditional method of planting multiple crops together to ensure soil fertility, while also adopting climate-smart agriculture techniques. So, what happens when we combine old with the new? What if we designed modern conservation strategies around what already works? The traditions that have stood the test of time? To truly protect natural resources, we must empower the communities who rely on them. This means more than just consultation. It means active involvement. Community-driven conservation isn't just a strategy, it's a necessity. When local people have a stake in protecting the environment, the results are often more enduring and impactful. But ask yourself, where are some of the most effective conservation practices still being sidelined by policy and large-scale industry? Why aren't governments and big corporations making room at the table for indigenous leaders and rural communities who have the most to lose? There are countless examples of sustainable practices already in action around the world. From the reforestation efforts of Brazil's Kayapo people to permaculture gardens in urban spaces, these initiatives show that sustainable living is possible if we are all willing to support it. The lessons are clear. Traditional practices hold the key to conservation in many parts of the world. But here's the final question for you. Can we truly solve the environmental crises of our time without looking to the wisdom of those who've lived sustainably for centuries? The future of our planet may depend on our willingness to combine the best of traditional knowledge with modern innovation. Are we ready to listen and learn? What will you do to support sustainable conservation? This publication was made possible through the funding provided by Global Affairs Canada and other Empowering Women and Girls projects. The Commonwealth of Learning wishes to thank the contributors of this video: Kuntal D, Sandy Hertz, Francis Ferreira, Cyrus Kithuva, and Collins Omondi.